All right, if you're still doing all your notes by hand, we need to talk. Authelis AI Scribe is changing the game. You walk in, you talk to your patient like you normally would, you treat them, and boom, your notes are drafted in real time. Thanks to AI. No voice commands, no clicking around. It just listens and writes. Like a scribe, but smarter. People are cutting their documentation time by 90%. That's not a typo, 90%. That's actual feedback from real clinicians using it now. You want to see it in action? Go to Authelis.com and take a test drive. That's ATHELAS.com and say goodbye to after hours charting.
All right, early bird special. Man, Dave is a dad. He's getting old and now he's early to the show. Dave, we missed you on Tuesday. How's it going?
Good morning. All is well. How about you?
It's going great. So interesting stuff, the life. I don't know if I'd call myself an entrepreneur, but I'm going to say the life of a business owner is never quiet. Before we started, we're going to bring Jimmy in. Before we started, I shared with Dave, I effectively built a business model that plays to my strengths, right? So what are my strengths? I've got social media. So a big chunk of our revenue profitability comes from social media income, but I also own property. It was always a dream of ours to own the building we were in for our physical therapy clinics. We own property in Florida. We've sold that. We own property here. And a big chunk of my business income is rental income. Well, I'm losing a big tenant. I just got a 60, maybe 90-day notice on this tenant moving out. So now I'm like, well, shoot, let's say that's a third of my income, a big chunk of my profit. Where am I going to replace that? And this is the real challenge that business owners are dealing with, whether it be you lose a big referral source, you go under a big Medicare audit, like whatever, there's always big changes that are happening. So we're brainstorming, we're figuring it out. I'm like, well, I could, replace that revenue, that rental income, obviously with another tenant. And that's kind of the sweet spot. We grabbed a realtor. We're working with a realtor for the first time, and we're going to try and fill that space. I could sell the building, use this as a time for an exit. They're doing tons of construction around us. We're right off the I-75 corridor. We've got a 3,600 seat convention center and hotel being built within the next 12 to 18 months, right next to us. Bunch of commercial properties coming in, bunch of retail. So this could be a good time to exit the building. This could be a good time to find a new tenant that's going to take a bigger footprint. This could be a big time to, just change my business again. Look at doing education, doing conferences. I talked to Jimmy about this. Bringing people into, turn it into a little mini business university for PTO TSLP. I don't know what we're going to do, but you guys will hear it as it develops live.
Maritata University.
I was going to say,
heck yeah.
Dean Tony.
Tony U.
Learn from all my mistakes. I've got millions of them.
But that's all a university is. I know they have pomp and circumstance, but when they say built on the shoulder of giants, it's built on the shoulder of giant mistakes.
Wet t-shirt contest, like pitchers of beer. Yeah, that's what the university was. That's what I remember.
Started on fraternity.
I was going to say with a potential tenant, I used to follow Grant Cardone. I don't anymore, but he's got some funny quotes. And one of his quotes is, "Who's got my money?" So there's tenants nearby, Tony. You jokingly can kind of consider your area, look around. I feel like there's got to be someone that would want that space in your area that would pay the same dollar amount, or you could bump it up a bit or whatever, or maybe give them, some rent reduction for the first, month or two, or the first 6 months or whatever, or, some period to lock somebody in. But there's got to be some healthcare provider nearby that is looking to, ramp up.
So that's one of the things we brainstormed with the commercial realtor. We have kind of a unique situation. So we have two opposing hospitals on opposite corners of each other. It's almost like there used to be, Walgreens and CVS across the street everywhere. These are two opposing hospitals. One hospital has a huge footprint in the area. They've been here since before I came around. The other guys just came in. They bought a section right off the exit. It's an emergency room. They have physician offices, but like they're all full. They don't have a place for PT. They don't have a place for other services. And from what I understand, the construction costs right now are through the roof. It is so hard to even get a building built. They can come in, and this is what I was saying, a bigger footprint. They can come in, take my entire building. It's almost 11,000 square feet, 2 floors. It was a spine center initially, so it's built for a medical center. And just be my tenant for the next 15 years. The other hospital rented 75% of my building for 5 years. It was an amazing experience. I love hospital tenants. So I would like to, and that's what we're going to try for, get somebody who wants a footprint in this area to come in and just take the whole building. There's also a massage therapy school who is looking to come into the area. I wish I would have owned a massage therapy business, school, but if I can't own it, maybe I can lease my space to them. There's tons of opportunities.
Be the Ray Kroc, right? Why own the business when you could own the ground the business is built on? I mean, right?
Heck yeah.
It's a real estate game.
So Scott's here, Bo's here. We've got a lot of stuff that we can talk about. Where do you guys want to start?
I would like to start on April 1st, which was 2 days ago. And we had talked on April 1st. Was that April 1st? We had like April Fool's Day's jokes. And this is me. I think I come off a little bit more risky or like communication adverse, like, grip it and rip it. When it comes to April Fool's Day and your business, I'm actually the opposite. And here's why. It's either going to go really, you got a 1% chance of it going really, really well, a 98% chance or a 98% chance of it just like completely blowing up in your face, another 1% chance of it just falling flat. Like you have to hit such a specific moving target to take a chance because everybody's trying to like fool everybody. And I'm like, it's 2025. This was possible. I gave a few examples on the live stream on Tuesday of like things we did in radio back in the day, kids before the interwebs. It was easier to fool people because there's no fact checking, right? You got fooled and you told 6 people, watch out for that. And the other 6,000 people in your life, you couldn't tell. So here's what happened. And people are getting fired. Like people have to be getting fired from these organizations. So which was first? Oh, it was this one. Okay, so Sword Health goes on LinkedIn, not really a Chuckles platform, but hey, Tony and I are trying to make it more of a Chuckles platform, right? We're trying to get a little more levity on LinkedIn. Sword Health goes old school, guy with girlfriend looking over the shoulder meme and does competitor he's dating high quality care, but he's looking over his shoulder at non-clinical coaches. So for those kids playing along at home, Sword and Hinge are Walgreens and CVS. Are they not? Like, am I missing something? Or maybe in the nuance, I'm sure I invited the CEO of Hinge on the show. He has not yet responded. But they are taking shots at each other on social media with memes. And they're sort of like the same thing. Maybe Coke and Pepsi, like Miller Lite, weird, great taste and less filling. I don't know. Like to me, from the outside, these two organizations look very similar, right? So Sword Health, shots fired on April 1st. But then, okay, go ahead. This will be the timeline.
All right, so that screenshot, that's Sword Health making fun of Hinge Health. I thought it looked like they made it for them. They're throwing shade. Yeah, which you guys probably would have thought that I created this meme. I don't create memes, but like, I basically have said verbally this type of meme for both of these companies, though.
Look. This is someone. Oh, this is me coming from my communications background. Someone who makes maybe like multiple 6 figures. Eventually, this got to them, and they thought this was a good idea for a multi-million-dollar healthcare organization.
I don't think that social media post went too high up in terms of getting approval.
Well, then everybody that it should have gone through they got fired, or they should be getting fired. Like, this is a bad move. And here's why. I'll give you the radio parallel because that's all I know, right? You don't get beat by the songs you don't play. You don't get beat by the jokes you don't tell. You don't get beat by the risks you don't take. Here, in this situation, in comms, you don't. This was a bad move. But wait, it gets better. Because the CEO for the other organization that they were throwing shade at, Hinge, came back. Never answer. Like, what are you doing? This is literally what they teach in the
read it. Let's go.
So this is Daniel Perez, CEO and founder at Hinge. He's like, when competitors act out, it's often because they're losing. Never punch down. Like, if this was a D minus, this is an F. Like D minus. Like, if you're soared and you are behind, I don't even know. I'm not keeping score. I don't know what metrics we're looking at here. You punch up. You try to get, if you're Pepsi, you try to get Coke to take the bait, right? And then they took the bait if they're ahead. And Perez comes back and he essentially is like, okay, when competitors act out, it's often because they're losing. And then he goes on a diatribe of like, here's why we're great at Hinge Health. The last point matters. Healthcare is a trust business, blah, 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 blah. This is a statement, most likely written by AI and then massaged by a comms professional, if we're keeping score at home. Here's the other thing too, and you can never prove it, but all the comments below this post from other Hinge employees, this post went out, and then a Slack message went out to everybody that said, jump on
go comment.
Yeah. Everybody dog pile in a good way. I can never prove it, but I don't have to because I run a podcast, so it doesn't matter. But that's what happened. Trust me. CEO put out a message, and everybody said, jump on it, and everybody start getting the feels, right? So you figure it would be done. 2 crappy mistakes in one day, separated by a few hours.
There's more?
There's more. we were in a chat. I was like, oh my God. And that's why I'm going to say her name, because I didn't even know this was going on until Marla is it Ranieri? She was the one who dropped in our DMs, was like, are you guys watching this? And I was like, Marla, I had no idea that this was going on in public, because no, Dave, we're not done there. We get even dumber. Because the first person who shots fired doubled down on memes. Hold on. I got to get a better picture of that. Hang on. Let me get a different version of that, because I got a little edit the screenshot. But yes, they doubled down on the memes. They went with the and they went with the wrong one. And I'm showing my age here. This is Drake doing the over-the-shoulder hand in the face, and then the gotcha meme. Gets offended by an April Fool's post mentioning one of our competitors using non-clinical coaches instead of licensed clinicians. And he's like, all right, actually uses non-clinical coaches instead of licensed. He's like, you're mad at me calling you out for the thing that we're both doing. And then someone pointed out, this is Drake. Who was the guy in the Super Bowl? This is what I'm showing. Who is the guy who
Kendrick Lamar.
You used the wrong guy. Kendrick Lamar won. You used the Pepsi again.
Look at Jimmy going like meta with putting all these pieces together, Tony. I love it.
You use the second place guy. What are you doing? So that's where I'm like, that's where I know this had to be approved, because they did it again. Like, once was bad, twice as much. So like, all right, this is comms at like $1 million company level. People doing it, in my opinion, and it's all subjective, poorly. But hey, look, they got some attention out of it. No attention's bad attention, right?
Yeah,
it is. So it's good.
So moral of the story is the April Fool's post should be funny only and not negative, right? They shouldn't be attacking.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
This came out of left field to attack a competitor, no?
Listen, I figured this out in high school, right? I wanted to be funny. What I realized was I wasn't that funny. I was fun. And there's a difference, and that's a different topic. If you ever want to make fun of someone, and you're in a room full of 20 people, you know the best person to make fun of? Yourself.
Self-deprecation.
Self-deprecation. And both of these people decided to prove how they were taking the moral high ground. They beat their chest so hard. So like, yeah, dangerous. Yes. Who lost worst? I would say it was Hinge, because if they're leading, you just acknowledge the fact that there's a competitor. With a D minus going to Sword, with the 2 different crappy memes. So this was gold for me for about 20 minutes. But I will have either of these CEOs or VPs of comms or anybody come on the show and tell me why I'm wrong and this was actually good ideas. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't see any other. There was one, Angie from Apex. They put a thing out saying that they were gonna stop doing musculoskeletal ultrasound. Usually, didn't APTA, and I don't even know. Like this is, I think, just as bad. I don't even know if it ever was confirmed. Was it an April Fool's or not?
What?
Like APTA had shared something a couple of years ago on April Fool's Day, and people were like, this has got to be a joke. Is this a joke? Is this an April Fool's? Are you teasing us? And I don't even remember what it was. It was some sponsor, like business that was coming in, paying APTA. It was crazy stuff. I think there's more to be lost than to be gained.
That's a better way to say it. There's a bigger chance of losing. Here's the thing in comms, if you have a press release or a story you need to share, unless it's a house fire that is happening right now, do it the day before or the day after. Do it on April 2nd. Don't do it on April 1st. Get out of the way. Or if you actually have something really funny and twisted, like a twist, like something to play with, do it on a different day when not everybody is doing that. The funniest post that I see that comes up every year is April 1st, the only day of the year when people actually read and review things critically that they find on the internet. That is the most accurate statement because everybody's brake checking on April. But hang on, I'm not going to fall for this. Right. The next day and the other 364, we sort of believe it at face value.
Nice.
There was one social media post, and then we can move on. But there was one social media post that caught my attention that was kind of funny, and it was that Jeff Bezos had acquired Hooters, the chain of Hooters locations.
That's not that far out of the realm of possibilities, though.
Exactly. But for other reasons or whatever, that there's someone linked that and made that a thing.
Now, did Hooters end up going bankrupt though?
I think that's why I was saying that. Yeah,
I think so.
Okay, same thing, because I see it and I'm like, is this for real?
That was a while ago, though. I saw that a while ago. They were talking about like how because them and Red Lobster even longer. Somebody bought Red Lobster though, like at a big loss.
Yeah, they did. All right, what do we got next on the agenda?
How about the that screenshot I sent you guys?
That's
the luxury personal training.
Yeah. I'll get
Jimmy,
that.
I'll let you.
I'll get it up on screen. You start talking about it, Dave. I'll put it up.
So I shared a post yesterday, I think it was. This is something I think about. And again, probably triggered by, I lose a big tenant. Now I need to make up the revenue. Where's it going to come from? Also based on conversations for the viewing audience, my wife came back into the clinic. This is her second week back in after 17 years. Now she's been behind the scenes doing payroll and other things, but she hasn't been a therapist in the clinic. And she came back as really running the front desk. And so she's realizing, she's like, wait a minute, when I left, what felt like yesterday, everything was on paper. New client would come in. We'd take a photocopy of their insurance card. We'd take a photocopy of this, that, and the other. Everything was done. Now it's like manual hunt and peck, okay, I got to put in their name. I got to put in their date of birth. I got to do all this stuff. Why is technology not doing this for me? Why? And you guys could tell me, Jimmy might know. I don't know of a single EMR in the physical therapy space. Guys, come at me, bro. I don't know of a single EMR in the physical therapy space where I can scan the insurance card, I can scan the driver's license, and it instantly creates the account for me. Do you guys know of that? I mean, we know in doctor's offices, dentist office, like everybody, everywhere else in the world, this happens. Does it happen in PT? I'm asking.
I've never seen it happen anywhere. You have doctors where you can scan your insurance card and driver's license and it creates an EMR account for you?
Yeah, it uses OCR. I think that's what it is. Optical character recognition, turns it into text, puts it straight into the EMR. Like it understands very simply what's the information available. Anyway, so she's coming in. Will, welcome to the show. And she's like, oh my gosh, how is anybody supposed to survive 20 minutes checking authorization to try and get a best guess, of what reimbursement's going to be? We've got all these rules, all these regulations. We're not even touching the compliance side of it with compliance officers and attorneys and all the other junk we're supposed to deal with. She's realizing she went into a coma 17 years ago, woke up today in a completely different world. And so I shared a post real quick. I just said, hey, can you deliver a 10-minute one-to-one experience profitably for $30? And that just came because I said, look, Medicare in an ideal world is paying about $30 a unit. And if I can wipe out all of the frustration, all of the, regulation, most of the documentation, there's still state guidelines I would need to follow, and just say, hey, if I can build a model that delivers 10 minutes face-to-face time with a therapist for $30 profitably, why don't I just build that? Why don't we just make this simplified down to its core component? And of course, Dave came in with the other end of the spectrum. I am not trying to deliver Dave's level of patient experience for $30. So what did you think? Where'd your mind go with it?
Oh, hold on. Before we share the luxury personal training. So yeah, so with this model, I wrote and I commented, I got a little love. I got a few likes from you and maybe Jimmy and someone else or a few others. But I mean, we kind of talked about this before. One is that is not the client, patient, consumer that I'm looking to serve. I'm not looking to have just someone come in for $30. I believe that if this was the model, everyone's paying out of pocket, which is great. The money hits the bank account in a couple days. That is great. There's no revenue cycle management. There's no software or anything that we need for that. But the no-show cancel rates would be high, I believe, for people that are coming in kind of whenever they want. I jokingly said it would be a chaotic zoo. Like, why would you even schedule appointments if it's 10-minute visits? So it's like it would have to be like a walk-in, like some of these like urgent cares now, where it's like you just walk in and you don't even have a scheduled appointment. So you're gonna have like times in the clinic where it's like crazy busy, and the therapists their heads are going to be spinning. They're going to have to write more notes unless you're using HippoScribe or whatever. There's just more administrative components. You're going to have to be incredible with marketing. You're going to have to run a ton of Facebook ads. You're going to have to run, offers and promotions and things like that to get people in, to generate enough of these 10-minute, what is it? It's 10-minute slots, per hour, on the hour, every day, every week, every month. You're going to have to get more humans to actually come into your brick and mortar office, regardless of typically they're coming in for 3 or 4 units or coming in for 45 or 60 minutes or whatever. And you're treating however many patients through Medicare or insurance or whatever. If everyone's paying out of pocket, awesome, great. But you're actually going to have more humans cross your threshold, actually get dressed, drive, park, then come into your office and, come in and all that. So I think it would be a challenge. I think it could be built. But it doesn't make sense when like you add it up and you're like, that's like $180 per hour. I believe in most states, it's so much easier to just charge $180 and find 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, whatever people per day on average to treat. And then it's 2 different patient experiences. It's two different services.
There it is. Right.
Go ahead, Jimmy.
So it's not, I want to be in the middle. It's neither here nor there. It's a different option. Like it literally is like, do you want this or that? Which one fits you? Because people value different things. Some people want 90 minutes of you listening to me talk about my day and then listen and a little bit of the rubsies and a little bit of the exercise and move on. And some people want, if you can do it in 15 minutes, I'll pay you triple the price. So I think the answer is it depends on what value is being decided by the decision maker. And to Tony's point, which the first time Tony ever said it was like, oh yeah, that makes sense. Understand who the decision maker is, right? Like this is where I get to be hard on our profession by saying like, you keep saying the insurance companies are bad. I'm like, the insurance companies, if nothing else, they're consistent. Like they don't show their hand. They plaster it on the wall. They put it in a contract. They write it down. So you have to understand what is being valued. So I agree with Dave and I agree with Tony. That's why I'm in the middle of this.
No, you got to pick a side.
Well, no, I don't, because I think you can offer, but you could have 3 of these slots a day and 5 of the ones that Dave is talking about or vice versa. And you can change according to the demand.
Now you're right. You're absolutely right. And the thing that I love about these posts and these questions is, it gives us the freedom to just think creatively, think outside the box. Like every single objection you raise, Dave, is 100% accurate, but every single one of those objections has a solution to it. And you're right. More bodies in the clinic. So I need a bigger clinic, more scheduling. So I need better automation. Again, I would default to if Planet Fitness can operate a multi-million-dollar business at $15 a month. How are you telling me that I can't do it
Because
at
no one shows
$30
up.
a session?
Because no one shows up to Planet Fitness.
Then
Okay,
you move
so
the
how do
model
we
to
build-
subscription.
How do we build that model? So then I say, okay, I'm going to do a $30 for a one-on-one, or I'm going to do 120. Come whenever you want. 120 for the month, you know, and I'm hoping you don't come, but that's okay, because that's the business model that I am building. I don't need you to come. I don't want you to come. Buy the membership, buy the treadmill that you never walk on for $1,000, or pay me 150 for a month. Never come to my clinic. Like, that is okay. That is a business that's filling a need within the demographic that wants to pay for it. But you know, this is the fun part of business. Like, I'm a creative at heart. I don't care about the money in the bank account as long as I have enough to pay the bills. I love creating new things that are valuable to somebody out there in the community. You're more of a business person. You're a real business person. You want real money in your real bank account. That is awesome. And I think that's why we can approach it from such different angles. I just love the creative process. I love brainstorming. Before we got on today, I said exactly the same words to my PTA. I was like, hey, we can do this for, 4 people at $25. They can come in. They don't even need one-on-one because I'm not billing insurance. So who the hell cares? Like, what? They just need to feel good. They want to pay $25 to satisfy something internally, whether I touch them or not, spend 10 minutes with them or not. But then I'm like, or we could do one Medicare visit for $100 for an hour. 4 to 5 people in the clinic versus 1 person. Like, yeah, we see those same exact comparisons and we discuss them every single day. I just think, like, this is the redneck party bus. So a couple months ago, one of my friends rented like this beautiful Hummer limo. We had more fun when we went on the redneck party bus, so both of them exist. Both of them are available. It just depends on what's the experience you're looking to deliver.
So this discussion was going on when Jim, because I don't have any kids and I work from home, so I was still in bed. But I was looking at what Dave and Tony were saying in the group chat this morning about the photos, and it made me think of the first time one of my bosses in radio had said, "Just go the other way." I'm like, "What do you mean?" Like, for every fancy limo, it's like instantly you'd be like, "Where's the absolute opposite of the spectrum? Where's the redneck party bus?" There was I don't know if they were the first to do it. They were the first that I noticed. There's a restaurant called Carrabba's. It's a franchise, but it's not super huge.
Fake Italian food.
Yeah, fake Italian food. But they famous
like Olive Garden. Go ahead.
like Olive Garden, and they're a little better than Olive Garden. I gotta be honest there.
I agree.
A little better than Olive Garden, but Olive Garden solves the problem. I love their breadsticks. It's like it's a little like crack. I need more of their breadsticks. But Carrabba's did something a little different outside just Olive Garden. They took the wall down. They made the invisible visible. Now you can look into the kitchen.
Yeah.
So then you go to the other side. What's a thing that everybody sees and it's ugly? Put the wall up, right? Make the small big, the big small. Make the black white, the white black. So you could be doing this thing, which is like PTs. This is where the bar is so low. Understand that the people watching and listening to us right now, you're probably the top 1% of our profession. I'm not even talking about your skill. I'm talking about the fact that you are taking free time. I'm not trying to like kiss your ass. You're taking free time to be like, okay, how could I be a little bit better? There's no guarantees listening to these yahoos twice a week is going to make me better, but I'm going to give it a shot to find the nugget. The bar's so damn low in terms of most people are coming in going, I just want to go into the model that worked 25 years ago and hope that it works out and bitch when it doesn't, because the only constant is change.
All right, here's a question. What would you do with an extra hour every day? It's not a trick question. That's what a bunch of physical therapists are saying after switching to Empower EMR by MW Therapy. It's built on automation and AI. So basically, it becomes your clinic's co-pilot. It keeps your schedule full, handles billing like a pro, and cuts way down on paperwork headaches. But here's the kicker. It's not some generic system. It's made for physical therapists by people who know what you deal with day in and day out. You want more patients? Done. Easier documentation? Done. Less stress? Yes, please. Empower lets you be the hero of your clinic with happier patients, less burnout, and better profits. Book your demo today at mwtherapy.com and see why switching just might be the easiest win of your year.
All right, Javier wants to know, how do you think your turnover rate would be in that model? What do you think about that?
So I assume he means turnover in staff.
Oh, really?
I can tell you
see,
right now.
I took it in patient. Like I took it in like finding new customers.
Let's take
We went
both.
directions.
Let's
Yeah,
approach it from both perspectives. From a staff perspective, like Dave would never come into my building, come into my clinic and be happy and
No.
fulfilled and do what he wants. I can't even tell you how many therapists I've employed over how many years that could never handle or enjoy the model that I'm talking about. But the guy that's out there right now, he's been with me 11, 12 years. We both thrive in that environment. We love having the mixture of, 3 people are paying out of pocket. One person is doing insurance. Another person is coming in pro bono. Like we just love having humans in the clinic and the capacity there. So to Javier's point, I'm never going to hire a therapist who wants to deliver a 60-minute one-on-one visit. I don't like that. I don't want to build that business. That therapist in my model would absolutely quit in 28 days, and they would attack me for being a horrible, quote, mill or worse in the profession. From a patient perspective, the whole idea is to, give them what they want and then get them out. Like turnover is an element in the profit model, and that's okay. I buy a car. The car sits in my driveway probably 98% of my time because I don't use my car other than coming here to work every now and then, which isn't that far. But I still paid for the entire car. I didn't do Uber to get to work. I bought the car. There's lots of things like that. And then the other part of it is going back, and everybody's going to hate this. I remember having these conversations with new hires, with people, therapists that were coming in. And I said, hey guys, I don't expect you to be with me for 40 years. Like that's not the business. I expect you to come in, work a year, maybe 3. But if you're not developing and improving and growing beyond what my business can offer, you are not the therapist that I want to bring into the business. I want somebody who is going to turn over. I don't want to keep giving retention, raises of 3% just because you've been alive with me. I want you to come. I want you to improve, and I want you to get the heck out, go somewhere else. Turnover can be built into the business model, whether it's staff or customers, if you do it right.
I have a interesting question that just came to mind. In using everything most of what Tony just said, are PT mills good? Because they get people in and out, and the goal is hopefully you can, in as many visits as possible in a short amount of time, get them to self-sustaining or back on their way. In that model, that's sort of what Tony was saying. It's like, hey, let's get them in, get them moving, and then get them out the door. They shouldn't be here for 6 weeks. They shouldn't be here for an hour times 8 weeks. That's a nice little twist. We should do a twisted episode where we have to defend PT mills. That would get some LOLs on YouTube, right?
And I was just gonna add to that, not that I'm in favor of mills, but to partially defend them now as a teaser for if we could do that as a full episode. And Tony will say it all the time, they also are the low cost option.
Sure.
Right. So they have wide accessibility. They take a lot of insurances. They will get you booked. Now the whole, one-on-one, like billing units, and is it actually one-on-one care all the time when it's supposed to be one-on-one care? That's a whole other argument. That's a whole other component.
Yeah, there's legality, and then there's are you delivering what's promised, right? Like legally, like that's what Tony said, like you have to be legal. Like you have to, if you are saying I am providing whatever, like all the things that have to be there need to be there. But then we put an assumption on patients that they want 60 minutes one-on-one, no one else in the room, no one within 100 yards of us, noise canceling headphones. You have to be staring at me the entire time. I'm watching every move with lasers and everything. Patients don't. I'm gonna go on a limb here. Most of them don't care about that. They want to be better afterwards. How do you do that is up to you.
So going back last week or Tuesday, somebody, I'm not going to mention names because we might do an interview with him. He got really offended. He got really fired up. Somebody was talking about a large corporate clinic, and he said, we don't do any of the stuff you're talking about. And it's true. I think too many of us still have this idea in our head that large corporate immediately means 10 patients an hour per therapist, with no help. I don't think that's the case these days. I think they have figured out the model that works for them. Hence, they're still in business. Yeah. The other part that's interesting about this, though, is I also think that it's a great proof of concept if you strip out the regulation and you say, okay, forget everything about compliance, regulation, all that stuff. Look, no matter how much therapists watching this here say, I hate that, it wore me out, I can't handle that, it was a model that continued to sustain. And so now we look at that and we say, okay, maybe it wasn't perfect. How do we refine it? How do we improve it? How do we make it better? And then, of course, you go to other models like, all right, CrossFit, you know, people are paying $250, $300 a month. They're in class twice a week with 20 other people. Like, how do I pull that element in? I shared I think it's Strong Something with Kids, where it was showing these kids, you know, toddlers and young kids pushing sleds and doing like great, awesome fitness stuff. And I'm like, okay, so if you have a pediatric practice that can't sustain with Medicaid reimbursement, what if you open the door to some of these other things and allow some of these, you know, new models to come in? Last one I'll say, We Rock the Spectrum. We talked about this franchise before. A mom had a child. The child was on the spectrum. The child was getting OT, PT services. The mom couldn't afford more services. The founding story is mom buys some of the equipment and then realizes, hey, I can make this accessible to everyone. She rents a space. She puts like 10 or 11 core pieces of equipment that the OTs and PTs were using with their kids. And then she just charges an access pass, $15, come in, use the equipment. There's no clinicians, but you can do what your PT or OT wants you to do. I just bought the equipment that we can all share. You know, and so these models are out there. They've proven to be successful. We just need to adopt the one that resonates with us. My model doesn't resonate with Dave. Dave's model doesn't resonate with me. But that's the beauty, is we can do whatever we want to do.
And this was a topic of discussion too before. I try to approach it Tony-like, very Yoda-like. When people are like, okay, let's go along your premise. I'll accept for a moment that mills equal bad. How do you define a mill? Is it more than 3 locations? 10? 12? Like where's the Mason-Dixon line of a mill? And everybody kept coming back with these like wildly subjective, well, as soon as it's not 60 minutes in one-on-one care. So I was like, okay, so 61 minutes is okay, but 59 is not. Is that the line? Well, that's not what I'm saying. I'm like, scroll. That's exactly what you're saying. So if you can't show me what a mill is, how can you say it's bad? Like, we define what rule, like, you know, drunk drivers are bad. At this blood alcohol level, no bueno. At this one, that's fine. You continue on your way, sir. So you have to define it before you can make it bad. So I don't know what a mill is then. If I'm Tony's wife, by the way, I love the fact that we don't know Tony's wife's name. I never want to know Tony's wife's name until she comes on the show, because right now she is this amorphous being that just like dropped in, but she didn't have the curse of knowledge anymore. She dropped in like she was 17 years ago, and she sees all this stuff. And so all the stupid stuff we're doing now, she's able to spot from a mile away in 2 seconds.
Real quick. So Javier, thank you again. So he said, I don't mind the thought, but I haven't come across any young PTs. I think we have the problem identified. Young PTs that would be okay with that volume. I only see older PTs being in the game for it. So, you know, and this goes back to my previous post a while ago. Did we outgrow the profession? And it doesn't mean that the profession is bad. It doesn't mean like I'm above and you're below, or the profession. I'm just saying maybe that's true. You know, I am not on the university campuses. I haven't been for a very long time, thank goodness. I'd be that creepy old man. But that being what?
I was that guy. I was the second career guy back. I was 30.
This is
30 in PT school.
But that being said, so if the universities are breeding a culture of clinician, new grad clinician, who is of the mindset that, and don't persecute me, I am a doctor, I only do this, I only do that, this is, you know, then that's where the profession is going to go. And that's fine. Like, it can go there. If you know, I don't want to go there. So I'm happy to leave the profession. I'm happy to hang up my shingle or retire my licensure. You know, like, I have zero marriage. It's not my religion. No problem at all. But I would say, I think the profession would do well to attract more young clinicians who have been fitness influencers, CrossFit coaches, you know, have been in that world, because they also see the value in that different model. And I think when we go back and we look at, okay, am I building dependency? Am I breeding dependency? Because this is a hot button for a lot of clinicians. Like, if I, quote, ignore my patient and make my patient do their own exercise, from the outside looking in, I look like a bad therapist. But if I do it intentionally to say, hey, this person's not going to have my hands when they go home. They're not going to have me with them the next time they flare up. My job is not to make them dependent on me, but rather to teach them what needs to be done and how to do it. This is a completely different world, you know, and once
you're empowering them is what you're saying.
Once you realize that and consciously accept, okay, like, and I'm going to say in Dave's model, which I have patients out there for 20 years. There are people who are dependent on me. I've done that. I understand it, like, but they're paying me out of pocket. Insurance isn't paying me for it. I also think there's great power and great honor in being the therapist who builds independence, resilience, strength, and you know, sees the person, teaches them a couple of things, and then lets them go on their own. But I can understand how, from a therapist perspective, you're like, you're ignoring them. You're not giving them, you know, whatever. No, I am empowering them to be independent. I'm kicking them out of the nest so that they can learn how to fly on their own.
So let's go through this, you know, in police talk, because I watched enough SVU to consider myself an expert on police procedure. It would be like evidence chain of custody. It's like, this is the gun, who has had the gun. So the first touch point, because Javier is talking about new versus older therapists, right? So I want to call this conversation for a minute that's not what was in the brochure conversation, right? So if you're a PT, what's the famous story of where you came into PT? I was a midfielder and I tore my ACL my senior year and went to PT and fell in love with the process. Got it. So you were sold one thing. You bought in, cue the harp music and the heart eyes, right? That's where you bought in. Or a career fair that you heard what that person's day was like. Or maybe you were inpatient and you were watching your mom go through something traumatic, or your grandmother broke her hip, right? So it depends on what brochure you looked at first, and you expected the profession to look and feel just like that. You're like, if I show up and I do everything you tell me and pass all the tests, I get to just show up and be on this conveyor belt, and I get now at different stages, different things. This is what my day looks like, and this is what everything looks like, right? Or is it you tripped across a university's website and look, become a physical therapist, and our pass rate is this, and the average physical therapist is the third happiest profession and makes this much money, right? Maybe that was the first brochure that you ingested or consumed and now said, this is what I will now expect. Here's the thing. Those are all just messages, right? Those are all versions of the truth, right? So if you're expecting it to be easy and show up, and when you get there, it isn't like that, because by the time you ingested that brochure in high school and became a doctor of physical therapy, however many years later, I got news for you. The world changed. The world changed. It changed, and it's constantly changing. So I could see where the young therapist would be pissed or confused, or people who were in the profession on that conveyor belt are now pissed that they have to change and adapt. I understand why you're angry. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It's not going to change anything. You have to adapt. Just because it was in the brochure doesn't make it true.
I would love to hear from Dave. So Dave has been in baseball a long time, right? So when you think of, like, in baseball, you've got your batting coach, your pitching coach, and then you've got the coach and the team manager, and you've got all these other people, but there's still this whole team. Like, every single individual on the team doesn't have a dedicated person every single time. Now, some of them might have outside trainers that they work with exclusively, but like within your model, and I struggle with this every day. Am I a coach? Am I a healer? Am I, like, what am I even? I don't know. Most of the time, I just want to be an educator. Yeah. Most of the time, I just want to teach people and then let them go do it. From a baseball perspective, I was in the batting cages pitching to my players last night. I'm like, I'm going to give you the pitches. We're going to work on your batting, and then you're going to go hit off the tee, or you're going to do something else to work on what I just showed you. How do you look? Do you make any comparisons between, like, your history as a baseball player, working with coaches and trainers, versus what you're doing as a physical therapist?
Not too much. I mean, I think at the end of the day, I think I look at what we do or what I am as a service provider. So some people, we go to someone's home and they kind of are yearning for the healer. Maybe we go into that mold. Maybe we fit that mold. Maybe we don't. Maybe we're someone is on Park Ave or Fifth Ave in Manhattan, and they're looking for a professional. They're looking for a physical therapist that comes in. They're clean shaven. That we've got a button up collar, whatever. Like, and oftentimes we're gonna fit that if that's what they're looking for. Sometimes someone needs more of the touchy feely stuff, and sometimes we'll kind of mold into or fit the mold of what someone like that is looking for. Um, I don't know if we're always going to say we're one thing or the other. We're not going to say like we're always we're healers or we're just therapists or we're professionals. We want to be professionals, right? Like we always want to be consummate professionals. But at the end of the day, we're delivering a service. And to loop back around with like the 10 minutes for $30 versus what we do is we're providing a service, and we want to have big enough margins to be profitable, to be sustainable, so that we can pay our therapists whatever they want, whatever they demand, whatever they actually deserve in the marketplace. Because if they can't get it with me, they're going to go get it with someone else. And also a service where sometimes there's a little bit of that, Tony. There's a little bit of like, yes, they stay with us for potentially long periods of time. So we are optimizing oftentimes for the lifetime value of the patient or client. They come to us for an episodic issue, ankle pain, back pain, whatever, and then they stay with us, and they do tune-ups, maintenance visits, wellness, some personal training, hybrid, whatever you want to call it. Some people are going to be independent, and they're like, hey, I just need you to help me with my pain, and then I'm going to go back to my trainer at Equinox or whatever, right? Okay, that's fine. And then some people stay with us for 3, 4, 5 years, right? We have a service. We deliver a service. We are optimizing for the high margin so that we can get aggressive with paid ads. We can get aggressive with mail promotions and paying our therapists a high rate per visit, and keeping some amount of these clients for the long term, that optimizes the lifetime value of some of those clients. And some of that cash we use for the paid promotions, the paid ads, compensating our therapists and all that. So I'm not sure if that answers your question, but that's how I kind of look at it in terms of like what we are, what we deliver. No, we're not necessarily healers. We're not Reiki. We're not pretending to do, I'm healing you with my energy, with my positive energy,
positive vibes.
Yeah. So we're not necessarily healers. We do say we're Dr. Mo, we're Dr. Dave, we're Dr. Chris, whatever, like doctors of physical therapy. We're not going to pretend like we don't say we're physicians. We don't say we're MDs. We are therapists. We are professionals. Sometimes maybe we're healers. At the end of the day, we're professionals. We're professionals delivering a service.
Yeah, I just thought of something, Dave, like what you're saying there. And I asked this question. I'll make an official LinkedIn poll when the live stream is over. But if the physical therapy profession had an animal mascot, what should it be? I think some of them would like to be rigid, non-changing, like a mule. I think some people would want to just walk in and just be brilliant. Like, I know the answer. I'm going to tell you what the answer is, like an owl, right? Traditionally, if we're going to go stereotyping animals, I don't want PETA showing up on the podcast. But I would say a chameleon, like within a range, you can or need, should you need to be certain things for certain people. But all of us are going to be different chameleons. And I'm sure my buddy Emery, who's a zoology major, could tell me there's 37 different kinds of chameleons. Some change color, some do this. If it's outside your range, like, look, Dave and Tony are both PTs. They're both chameleons, right? But it's too far of a stretch for Dave to want to do Tony's model. So don't do that. Don't do that. And vice versa. Don't do that. So there's a range. See what fits in it. Maybe your first job at a PT school. I mean, if I got some of this advice, maybe I'd still be in a clinic. But because I went to a few jobs and I'm like, nope. I'm out doing this weird other thing. I'm weird. Like, don't worry. You're not like me. You're better. But I think chameleon should be our mascot, which is what can you be for that person in front of you?
100% agree. I've never agreed with Jimmy McKay more than chameleon, because you have to be, you absolutely have to be a chameleon, especially like, I think you have to be maybe less of a chameleon. Maybe you could push back. Maybe it's another episode. Maybe less of a chameleon with Tony's model or with an insurance model, and you accept like any insurance, and here's the service, take it or leave it. With us, we have people that are like, oh, well, if I'm paying $2, $3, whatever, $100 per visit, they have higher expectations. They have higher desires. They're going to make their voices heard. They're going to demand certain things. Sometimes that actually disqualifies them, but it's a whole other conversation. I 100% agree. Chameleon.
I was on Facebook yesterday. I think I shared a post yesterday, and somebody who I love her to death, but she said, and I can't believe somebody is still saying this, people in my area won't pay cash. People in my area won't pay cash. And I think we've disproven that, 100%. But I'm not going to change your mind. I'm not going to try to change your mind.
It's a false belief. Yeah,
it is.
What are they doing? Are they bartering? Are they bartering with vegetables that they grow in their garden? How are they getting gasoline? They won't pay cash? Okay.
And then this morning, though, I did share, and I know we're coming close to the end, I did share a post, and I'm curious to see, we've established Dave's customer is the client. My customer is still the insurance company. I shared a post where I was like, what's interesting to me? There are third-party payers right now that require you to get authorization after you do the evaluation if you want to continue to treat the patient. And I think anybody who watching this right now, hearing this, you probably already know. If Anthem, Blue Cross Blue Shield, Medicare Advantage requires auth, I submit auth through AIM, AIM. What are you going to get? You're going to get an approval for 4. You're going to get an approval for 6. Like that's the typical approval. I think one time in the history of the universe, I got an approval for 12, but generally you're going to get 4 or 6. So if I'm getting automatically, the algorithm is spitting out, we'll give you 4, we'll give you 6. And then of course I can request more and I'll get 2, but that should be a sign to us to say, okay, the systems on the third-party payer side are set up and designed to say, this is what we are approving. This is what we are expecting. This is what we were doing. Now, where I find it funny is, what do you think those therapists requesting their plan of care visit number is? 12, 18, 24, 36, which of course I think it's funny that it's always 12, 18, 24, 36. It's never 17. It's not 6. It's these round numbers. I think that is our biggest sign to say, hey, the algorithms, which really is what insurance is, they're looking at charts, they're looking at numbers. Where do we expect this to fall? They're telling us this is what we're here to buy. And it's like a customer. So if you take a customer who says, hey, I want to buy a widget, how much is that going to cost me? Versus the customer who says, I'll pay you $10 for a widget. What are you going to give me? Dave's world, the customer is saying, I need to feel better. I need to walk better. I need to do better. What is it going to cost me? My world, third-party payer is, I'm deciding what can I give for $10, and so obviously my world is incentivized by its nature to find the lowest possible widget that I could deliver at the lowest possible cost to satisfy the dollar amount being offered, whereas Dave's world is incentivized to give the highest possible value to deliver the exceptional experience. And I'm okay with that. Again, I am okay with that. I am very happy as a therapist delivering the lowest possible cost to secure the income that I agree to accept for what I am delivering, and I think we need providers at both ends of that.
Agreed.
All right. Are we doing closing thoughts? Parting shots?
Parting shots.
I want to come back to the luxury personal training on Tuesday.
Yeah,
we ran out of time.
We didn't share that image.
We can preview it. Let's tease it. There it is.
I'll go first. Yeah, there we go. The little teaser. I'll go first. I felt like a chameleon back in 2016. I had, Vinicial had failed, and I was like, I gotta do. And I was kind of scrambling for a couple different jobs. I was doing an outpatient pediatric part-time job. I was doing sensory integration and stuff that like my wife is great with. I was doing coverage for a buddy's one-on-one outpatient office. So that was like out of network and self-pay. And then eventually I was doing the home visits through another company. So at some point I was doing like 2-3 jobs at the same time. And I absolutely was a chameleon. And the folks that I think, the therapists out there, anyone that's, a healthcare provider or whatever, if you're able to be nimble and navigate different experiences, learn from different experiences, even if you have to take a job or you're working somewhere and there's too many patients booked per hour or per day or whatever, like you got to learn from that. And if you don't like it, find something that's different. It's out there. Like if you don't like Tony's model, find something that's different. If you don't like my model and you don't like that, you got to like confirm and, you got to book your own patients and build your own schedule. Like, then you got to find like Tony's model, and you have a front desk person like Mrs. Maritato who's going to book your business for you or whatever. So like, you got to find what's best for you out there. And you can only do that sometimes through resistance or issues and challenges and, things that are not great in the short term, but in the long term, you learn from it. So I cannot believe, like, because I used to consider myself, and I would say in my head, like, that I was like a chameleon at that time, 2016, 2017, going through that transition. I cannot believe that Jimmy said chameleon as the physical therapy mascot. And yes, he is 100% right with that.
Should make a flag. This should be I'll create our logo. I would reiterate, my parting shot would be, make sure you understand that you're selling a solution for the problem that the person you're trying to help actually has. I mean, I learned this in really, really different contexts when I was working for Mount Sinai and working at a rehab innovation lab. I worked at a lab. That's weird, right? Even to say out loud now, but it was a great experience. And most of the time, these technology companies would come in to help these disabled people with this solution. And David Petrino, who is the physio who is in charge of the lab, would be like, how many people on your board of directors or in your organization have that disability and live with it every day? And often the answer was round and zero. And then he would bring those people in and say, here's a great solution. It's going to solve all your problems. It's going to be $1 billion idea. And they would say, that isn't even in our top 30 problems every day. Like, I don't care about this problem. Never mind your solution. Like, think about that. I don't care about what you think is a problem. So what are you solving? Who do you want to solve it for? And then work backwards. It's actually a lot easier when you do that instead of trying to jam your model down someone else's pocketbook.
All right, guys. Kendrick, thank you so much. Kendrick's here from the mental health space.
Listen, whenever you have a choice to go with Drake or Kendrick, you go with Kendrick, people. You go with Kendrick.
Kendrick, can you comment also live how you heard about this? How did I'm curious as to how you're in the mental health space. Wonderful. Welcome in. Let us know how you found us, whether it was PT Pinecast or Learn Medicare Billing or Dave Kittle Show.
Yeah, we need more people like that.
And while we're waiting on that, as soon as Kendrick does that, we'll wrap the show. But, the greatest advantage we have, which is also probably the greatest detriment we have, is the fact that we can do anything. We can do anything within the profession, everything from pediatric to geriatric, from neuro to ortho, from healing and Reiki to, scientific clinical stuff.
You can.
There are therapists that can do everything. We don't have definitive direction with that, but we also have then the freedom. So, all right, guys, what?
The line from Jurassic Park, your scientists were so concerned if they could, they didn't stop to think if they should.
Yes, exactly. All right, we'll let Kendrick leave a comment later. I'm going to wrap it up. Come back Tuesday, Thursday, every morning, 8:30 a.m. Eastern. We will see you guys on the next episode.
See ya.
You ever wonder how those rock star clinicians seem to just know what to do? Like they've got a sixth sense in clinic. Well, here's the secret. Brooks IHL. Their residency and fellowship programs for PTs, OTs, and SLPs are where clinical skills meet elite mentorship. We're talking 150 hours of one-on-one mentoring, lab training that's immersive, and real-world experience inside Brooks Rehabilitation's top-tier system of care. And unlike some programs where you have to put your career on pause, Brooks IHL pays you a full salary while you level up. Their grads consistently outperform national board pass rates, and most of their mentors, they've been through the program themselves. If you're serious about being a clinical expert, this is the move. Go to brooksihl.org and check out all 10 program tracks. The next level of your career is waiting at Brooks.